Welcome to the Beacon by Soul 33, teachings for your past, present and future. Good morning, everyone. It is the 22nd of January here in Auckland, New Zealand, and we're in the final week of January. So I don't feel like we need to worry about it. I know it feels like time is going quickly, but remember, this is why we're here, progressing our souls in terms of making sure we're making the best of our lives. Now, remember, if you're listening to this on the Beacon app, on Spotify, on YouTube, please do what you can to share, tag, let people know that this app exists. It really helps me to grow this platform and create more resources for you. And we had such great news last week, and it was completely unexpected, where Time Out Magazine USA had picked the Beacon app as number 2 of the 11 best apps to help you reach your goals in 2024. And I thought this was so amazing because when I started this app, we launched it just before COVID lockdown started. And Spirit had told me, create an app, people are going to need this. And they said to me, you didn't have this when you were going through your spiritual journey. There wasn't anyone to support you in an affordable way to just give you information about what's going on so you can understand your life. And it's just so amazing because, this is a project that I've been working on with my IT team and my designers, but I'm not a big organization. I am an individual that started something, and it's so great to receive some sort of recognition because it just was never even expected. I created this for you and for me as well, because I have to sit and bring this information to you and make sure that I understand what the lesson is as well. So when you let people know about it, it really, really helps me. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So I'm still clearing my throat. So I mentioned to you last week that I had been unwell. Now, the unwellness continued on. I felt like I look more like myself, which is what I was telling you in last week's Monday Mantra. But what I found interesting is that I didn't have COVID. I had a sinus infection, but I'd completely lost my sense of taste and smell. And I had that for over a week. So all of last week until about Thursday, I had no sense of smell or taste. And I found it fascinating because Spirit had said to me, you don't want to live with muted tones. And for me, I use my senses a lot. I'm a cook. I love to cook. I love to eat. And I really was struggling without the sense of smell and taste. But when it did came back, I could feel the vibrancy of, oh my God, this is how life is important to me, to be able to smell and taste everything that I do and to be able to digest life. So those of you who are joining us for the first time or very recently to the Monday Mantras, I set these every week as a soul progression lesson for you. And for me, I go back and listen and reread to see how it unfolds in my life. And I always do a recap at the beginning because all of the Monday Mantras make a transition from one energy to the next. So last week, I set the Monday Mantra as, I am courageous in who I am and live with freedom. I'm courageous in who I am and live with freedom. So I talked about our identities changing and authentic power is beginning to look different to all of us. So for me, with the muted taste and smell, it was like my vessel was being cleared out and dulled in order for me to come back with full vibrancy in my new identity. Sometimes we need to realize how standing strong in our boundaries and ourselves is very important to be authentically who we are. We may find ourselves bending our rules only to realize why we had them in the first place. This was so interesting for me because, again, we had another example within the business side of Soul 33 where I'd agreed to do something that I don't normally do, and it came back where I really realized why my instinct was not to do that. So I said to Kieran, this is why we just have to stick to our rules, because this is how it works and what Spirit actually wants us to do. There are new realizations that you have had over the past few weeks, and you will use this to expand and progress this week. It's about potential and possibility. We want to move beyond merely existing. When you have your senses taken away from you, it becomes about existence rather than I can live vibrantly. So when I was looking back, thinking about how I was expanding and progressing, I saw this in the form of the types of clients that I was seeing. I was seeing clients that were at a crossroads. I was seeing people that needed to make decisions. And these decisions were to empower themselves. For me, I also had to empower myself in the decisions of how I want to live, how I want to embrace a new identity that is being unfolded within me. So, what happened for you last week? What were new realizations that you had? And that could have been, in retrospect, with something being taken away or being presented with an option of how you want to be now in order for you to come to your full potential. You will see glimpses into the rest of the year, how it will unfold for you. So take this foresight and save it in your arsenal for pulling out when you recognize a similar pattern unfolding. For me, this was about sticking to my rules, like the rules that I've set for myself, my boundaries of saying yes, yes to what I want, yes to more of the life balance that I'm trying to achieve. So, what were some patterns that were coming up for you last week? When I reflect upon the clients that I had, the past life patterns that were coming up were me going back into old relationship blueprints to be able to clear that and knowing that this is something I will face in the future if I'm not going to recognize this pattern unfolding and for me to say yes to something different. So I remember seeing a past life for a client, and I can't remember, it was a female client, I remember that. And I said to her, I'm in some past life now, and I said, there's a man in this past life that has the name Leo. Now I'm going to use the actual name because you're not going to know who this is. And I remember the name Leo. And I think I was saying Leon, and she goes, oh my goodness, that was an ex-boyfriend and blah, blah, blah. And it was interesting because that was an ex-boyfriend from many years ago for this person, but it was a relationship she'd also had in a past life with this person. So we had to go in there and understand what the pattern was because this person was now single and wanting to bring in love. And I saw a lot of this with clients last week, the old relationship patterns coming up. It was coming up within me too, where I could choose being the old version of me in a relationship, or I could be the one that is trusting that this is how I want to be now in a relationship by speaking what I really mean. Spirit says we don't want to live with regret or disappointment. So what must you do now? We need to empower ourselves to make decisions for ourselves in order for us to not feel like we're missing out or that a significant part of our life has just disappeared because we haven't said yes to what we want. We can't live for other people. We can't live for the people we work for. We can't live for our clients. We can't live for our partners. We have to live for ourselves. Now, this is not being selfish in terms of disregarding what our obligations are, what we want to do for other people. It is about honoring who we are and what we need to do for ourselves. Your freedom and challenging your status quo will be required in order for you to love every part of yourself and life. Now, the status quo I was seeing quite a lot with clients last week in terms of they were tired of experiencing the same obstacles. So, how are you going to challenge the status quo? We can't be afraid to say things because if we are afraid to say things, we know that the fear in itself is going to start manifesting into something more. Therefore, we need to find the empowered version of us to be able to deal with what we're trying to change. Allow your life to be a full spectrum of color rather than muted tones. I was saying to my friends, life for me is not worth living if I can't taste and smell because, like I said, I'm a cook. But when it started to come back, I was devouring and so grateful that I could taste and experience the depth of flavors. And this is what I knew that Spirit had done this to me. It wasn't just purely my body needing to purge out all the stuff that was imbalanced within me, which is what the remedy, the homeopathic remedy was to balance me out. So therefore I had to purge in order to come back to balance. But it was also for me to know that when you are not fully in the moment, when you're not fully consciously experiencing what you're ingesting with life, life can feel very, very muted, and it's like, what's the point? New ideas and new options will be presenting themselves to you. Are you going to take them? So what new ideas came to you? I was receiving ideas through other people and through spirit. So, for example, I got up, I think on Wednesday morning, and I was working that day, and in my meditation, Spirit said to me, please go and get acupuncture. And I was thinking, now I'm not a fan of acupuncture because I've had PTSD from the practitioners before, really overstimulating someone like me who's very, very sensitive. But I saw myself getting acupuncture. So I said to myself, whoever is available at the time I'm available today, I meant to go. So I did some Googling and within my area, and I found a lovely man who said, I'm available at that time. And I went, and I'm so glad I did, because it started to open up my sinus passages. But it was a new way of thinking, a new idea for me, something that I'd had a bad experience with in the past was giving me a new option, going, this is available as support for you. And so the new ideas was what this gentleman was saying to me about what he was feeling in my sinuses. And so I could see new pathways opening up because my sinuses were opening up. And I could see new ideas also coming to me through friends. Friends were messaging me going, I saw this or I heard this. You should think about doing that. And I've got now parts of this information in my arsenal to bring out later in the year when I want to. So it was quite a powerful week. Even though I spent most of it muted, I know Spirit was doing that on purpose for me to live more fully this week. So remember, I'm always here for you, but I am only one person, and I'm doing my very, very best to be able to serve all of you within your affordability to see me. The best, most profound way to see me is obviously in person, but remain on the wait list because it's always the right time when you need to see me, or when Spirit orchestrates this. But if you need any help, mini readings, personalized meditations, any help at all, renewing your app membership, it's only $60 a year. Karen is the person to ask, and that is soul33@gmail.com. Now, as we move through the week, I've been putting up little snippets of the Monday mantra for your reminders throughout the week on my social media. And the reminder to have boundaries is, if we want to have that type of freedom to be ourselves, we need to have boundaries in place. This is about the rules that we set for ourselves, and not, because when we break our rules, we can see like, oh, this is why I had them in the first place. These boundaries about saying yes to things, not saying no, because it's a different type of energy that comes in when we say yes. The soul progression card that came up as the collective for us was the spiritual growth card. Now, the spiritual growth card came up because it was at the forefront of our identity shift within the week. Spirituality is not in how you dress or how much you meditate. It's not what you eat or by how much you isolate yourself. It's not in how much you see through your third eye or are communicated with by Spirit. It's not in how much you're communicated with. It looks different for everyone. However, what it really is having the awareness and the ability to observe, to draw connections. We all still need to make changes and not magically think things can change without this awareness. So I had a client last week who was saying that their partner has gone down the spiritual journey and is completely wanting to detach. Now, detachment is definitely a part of the spiritual journey, but it's not to the point of where we're not loving people and having intimacy and all of that. It's about not being so caught up in things. It's about observing, having awareness as to why. We can't control people and be spiritual at the same time. So what I mean is that I firsthand admit this. I am quite a controlling person. Part of my soul's journey was to relinquish control and trust in the flow of life. That's been really challenging for me, but the more and more that I do that, the more amazing things happen for me. So don't box yourself to feel like you need to be some way to be spiritual, but also make sure you're doing it in a healthy, balanced way. Because when we are aware and observe and we can see connections to everything and everyone, we then become more free, meaning we're not trying to control somebody or control ourselves to the point where it's becoming restrictive. We can love people freely and make decisions towards our freedom. This card has come up for us to remind us that spiritual growth is inevitably occurring from your decision to live life fully and make positive changes within your circumstances. So, what are the positive changes that you've started to implement in your life this year? And being brave in who we are with our new identity, because we all should be changing. I think I was listening to a Esther Perel podcast over Christmas. I think it was her. And basically the information she was saying is why people separate or divorce. And it's usually because, now she was talking quite gender specific. Women feel that men don't change, and men feel that women have changed and not the same person they used to be. But the core of this information is change. We should be all changing and evolving and growing. And we are really spiritually changing a lot at the moment, which means that this is going to have a physical impact on our relationships with whoever we have relationships with. So being brave in who we are is really vital in order for us to be free. Because if we are being controlled by somebody else, if we are controlling ourselves too much, and this is not about being reckless, this is about restriction, this is not a spiritual thing. We should spiritually be loving ourselves free and loving people free. Now, if you're having trust issues with someone, then this is your issue to address, to see am I having trust issues? Are these insecurities really based on truth, or is there some insecurity and fear in me of relinquishing control? Maybe you won't want me anymore if I don't control you, So we have to be very careful here of how much we're trying to control and how much we're trying to empower ourselves and empower those we are in friendships, relationships with whoever. And then, of course, I shared the amazing news about Time Out magazine, which, it's really that recognition, because I do my best to upgrade the app as soon as I have the finances to keep putting and investing in. This is what happens with your subscriptions. At the moment, it all goes towards developing the app to make it an app that can help you fulfill your goals. And this is why, the spiritual vibration, how we are within ourselves, is what actually manifests on the outside. And the extended meaning of the Monday mantra: when we are brave in who we are, we allow life to surprise us. From a place of security without expectation, we find ourselves receiving more than what we ever thought, because we are free from the inside. So if you're being controlled, or you're the controller, or you are experiencing insecurity or obstacles or at a crossroads, there's something within you that doesn't feel secure. It doesn't feel like I can actually be safe in my situation, in my relationship. Sure, from time to time, we're all going to feel insecure, but the main operating system should be: I'm brave in who I am. I'm going to allow life to surprise me, because I'm just showing up in the world as me, from a place of security without expectation. Free on the inside. Is that you? To have freedom with security, it needs to start with your courage within yourself. From there, life brings you things you never expected, because on some level, it is all a reflection of you. It takes discipline to be free, and it really does. Because if you think, freedom is on the inside. Like, if we set all these limitations, we're never going to experience what it means to be truly free and having freedom in our life financially, in our relationships, and how we choose to spend our day, all of those things. So remember, if you need anything, Karen is the person to ask, soul33@gmail.com. Those of you who are new to the app, I don't have the subscription available on the app stores because they take such a huge percentage that this is why I can charge such a nominal fee for the app, because I'm going externally through the link. It's a little bit of an extra step, but it's saving you a lot more than what it would if I went through the usual route. So if you need the link for the renewal of subscriptions, please email Kieran. If you're having any IT problems, please ask what the solutions are with Kieran, because we want to know. So moving into this week's Monday mantra. I empower myself to do what is necessary until I can do what I want. I empower myself to do what is necessary until I can do what I want. So really listen to those words. Because as a business person, like the app, for example, I work every day. Even when I was sick, there were still things I needed to do. But this is the perseverance and the commitment that I've made until I'm able to do what I want to do. And so our inner wisdom, which is our intuition, which is our knowing from our experiences in this lifetime and our soul experiences, it knows. It knows what we need, and it sometimes tells us to do things that we don't necessarily want to do, but we need to do them until they naturally start happening without us having to intervene. So we are being asked this week, and this is why you have the crone meditation. It's not specifically a full moon meditation, but Spirit asked me to choose that one because it's the energy of the crone. So the crone is the elder wise woman, that feminine, intuitive woman that's inside all of us regardless of gender. And that's who we want to channel this week. A crone is a woman who has the inner wisdom to know that things don't need to stay the same. So this is carrying on from last week, that she is the creator of life. Spirit says this week to take a leap of faith and channel your inner crone, which is the wisdom that knows what you need to do. This is again about challenging the status quo. This is about speaking up and being a self-respected, self-assured, and unapologetic person to do what is necessary. It's like if you're a parent, there are things that you need to do for your child that they may not necessarily like, but you know that you're empowering your child to be a better human being later on. We're doing that for ourselves, the inner crone, the inner wise woman coming out. Taking this leap of faith and channeling your inner crone to be that self-respected, unapologetic person and doing what's necessary is not about being rude or brutal or aggressive. It's just using your inner wisdom this week to be really convicted in that knowing, even if someone else doesn't get it. When I first wanted to start an app and I was just saying it to a few people, they're like, oh, people won't want to pay for that. People won't want to do this. You need to be free. Why do you want an app for? I had my knowing, just like I have when I see clients, I have certain knowings for myself. Even if people don't get it, and like children don't get sometimes why you're saying things or doing things, eventually they will. And you just need to be convicted this week. So you're going to have to remember that guidance with whatever comes up for you in whatever situation. You are a warrior. We are warriors. And the only faith you need this week is in yourself. Fill your cup with creativity, curiosity, and possibility. Don't restrict yourself. Expand this week. You know, this is what I love about being in my 40s, and I'm sure I'm going to love it as time goes on with the different ages that I am. You become a lot more decisive. I mean, I'm always decisive, but it's kind of like, no, this is actually what I want. This week, there is clear direction. So the new ideas may have started to formulate last week in some way. You don't have to totally resonate with that right now, but this week there is actual direction and success in those long-term investments are beginning to pay off. So start to see as you go through the week, what have you invested in? You don't need to hustle so much anymore because you should be reaping the benefits of what you've started to grow. And if you haven't, this is why your Monday mantra needs to be applied even more heavily, is because there's something that you haven't said, done, invested in that's requiring that attention. If you are experiencing the opposite, it is because you are needing to release your insecurity to find the wisdom in your knowing again. Use your power this week, but not with force. Back yourself with confidence, knowing that everything is working out for you. Now, we do have a full moon in a couple of days on the 25th. It is a time of releasing old beliefs and insecurities, preventing yourself from backing yourself. So the full moon on the 25th is a time to release old beliefs and insecurities, preventing yourself from really backing yourself. Now, this is a full moon phase that may bring up feelings of self-judgment or being judged by others, because we're all wanting to be accepted and valued and appreciated. So whatever comes up to be released at this time is making way for this confidence, power, and inner knowing. There's been really wonderful energy this month. Like, I've spent over a week and a half unwell, but underneath all that, there's this sense of excitement. And it's really cultivating a theme for this year of simplicity, but knowing what we want, knowing that we need to challenge the status quo, knowing our power and our new identity, having the strength and movement that we need to set ourselves up for the year to be who we want to be and to be who we really are. It's so important with that message. So right now, I want you to close your eyes if you can. And if you're not driving or doing anything that is going to disrupt your activity, so closing your eyes. Now, I'm giving you now the energy of empowerment. Empowerment so that you know that you are able to make decisions in your life that are going to suit you, but also benefit everybody else that you interact with. To know that you don't have to rush, and that you are going to be in a position eventually to be able to do what you want to do. And you know that in life we do have to do what's necessary, and you've got the power to change, the power to channel your inner crone energy. So remember, I'm always here for you. There are so many different ways to connect with me and heal yourself. Kieran is the person to ask if you need any help. And our email is soul33@gmail.com. Your Monday mantra is, I empower myself to do what is necessary until I can do what I want. I empower myself to do what is necessary until I can do what I want. When we empower ourselves to do what is necessary, that means that we are doing it because we want to, because we know. And that is your inner crone.